Hello, I'm Jacqueline Doodley. Everybody calls me Jackie. I'm a person in long-term recovery, which means that I have not had a drink or a drug since February 19th, 1993. Um, I live in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much for coming out and joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy life to be able to spend some time with us. So, could you start off by sharing a bit about your childhood?
Absolutely. I was an only child for 7 years. And I think I have only child or oldest child syndrome, reared by my whole family, my grandparents, my mom and dad, and my uncles in Washington, D.C. until we came to Ohio in like 1973.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Washington, D.C., and so that was super exciting. I just have a lot of great memories of being raised by all my uncles, grandparents, the church, and all of that.
So, so as your teenage years went, what was home like? What was school like?
So leading up to high school is when I got introduced to alcohol. I will admit my self-esteem was low. I went through some changes where people made me feel like I wasn't good enough, and but I just wanted to be a part of. And with that introduction, I found something that made me feel okay, like I fit. And eventually, I was introduced to crack cocaine, and with crack cocaine, it demanded that I give it my full attention. I hid from my family. There would be phone calls where I would say I was fine, everything's okay, I'm working at KFC, or I'm working here, I'm working there, everything's all right. And when my mom finally saw me, she knew that I wasn't all right. Her thick healthy kid, and I didn't look that way anymore.
Right. So, did you experience any consequences during that time?
Well, yeah, I'm bona fide. So let me just tell you, I've been arrested over 13 times, and things that, and I can laugh about being arrested, but what I can't laugh about is that I brought a baby into this world, under the influence of crack cocaine. But even he now is 31 years old, law enforcement, doing his own life the way he wants to do it as a young, healthy man. And so, but the consequences was I put myself in a position to be hurt lots of times. There were times when I would have my family afraid. There were times when I jeopardized the lives of other people, not to mention my own baby. I had tried to get sober from the time that baby was born, since he was 4 months old. So in 1990, I started the journey to try to get help. And I ended up getting in a place where I could get help. And those last 30 days, I remember leaving a treatment center on the south end of Columbus. And a counselor was there begging me, pleading me, don't go. And I could feel his emotion to this day, which is why I want to cry. I don't remember his name, but he pleaded with me. And I was just like, I gotta go. I was waiting on this cab. I gotta go. And I left. I got a check. I had a check. And not even a big check. It was a little check.
But it can be dangerous nonetheless. Starts that thinking.
Yes. And I left. And I went to the worst place. I came full circle. Where I started drinking and using, my parents had since moved away. I ended up back there down the street. The worst house on the block. And I sold my check for about 20 or 40 bucks. And I got it, and then after that, they kicked me out. And I don't ever want to forget the feeling of, you think of the worst place you can be, and they have the audacity to kick you out. You're not worth it. You can't hang out in this nasty place where we're all hanging out.
Right, right.
And I remember leaving that, and I don't know how. I don't know who let me use their phone, because all we had back then was pagers.
Right.
So somebody let me use their phone, and I'll never forget the conversation I had with my dad, and said, "Dad, I want help. I'm ready." And my dad said, "All right, Trinette," because that's my middle name, Trinette. You can come here, but I'm not hiding my stereo. I'm not hiding, and he named off his important items. I'm not hiding anything. I was like, "It's okay, Dad, I don't want it." And that was in 1993.
What did you do then the next day, the next month, to be able to be okay?
Yeah. So I'd been introduced to the 12-step community, and I went to one 12-step community because I didn't know. I thought you had to go to that one because of what you did.
Yep.
And so I went to that one, and it just didn't, something's not right. I still felt like that little kid that needed to people please and felt like I wasn't enough and I need to do stuff to get friends. And so something wasn't right. And so I don't know how I made it to the other 12-step program, but a little short white lady that was as tall as she was round, who's still alive today, grabbed my face. She grabbed my face. I've been arrested 13 times for putting my hands on people. Not all solicitations, but I'm a fighter.
Right.
I'm a soldier. She grabbed me. I'm a black woman. She's a little white lady. She just comes in. I know I look straight. She just stands up, grabs my face with both of her hands, broke all kind of cultural, barriers, and said, "Welcome, honey. Hope is found here." Pat the seat. Said, "Sit down, I'll get you something." And she came back with a cup of coffee and some cookies. And immediately, I felt like I was in the place where I belonged. And so, I just began to learn some things differently. And they taught me, what I learned from them is what they had to tell me what it was. My sponsor, my mentor said, "I'm going to find two things here. I'm going to find what I want, and I'm going to find what I don't want. Choose wisely." And I found women who seemed upright, straight-laced. And I saw women who weren't. And, I practiced with the women who weren't. That just wasn't for me. And so at my young age, I did the best I could to model or to mock or to, the word I think I'm looking, model after those women. And it just done so much for me. I wanted to go to college, raise my son, and I knew I was a helper, but I didn't want to be a nurse. And that's what my mind kept saying, like, helper? We don't want to be a nurse. Helper? We don't want to be a nurse. And my sponsor, I told her, I said, I want to be working at fast food all my life. And she said no. And she opened up the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and showed me where it said that my new life would not be given freely, that I would have to give up of self, but that God would put me in a position where I could be of maximum service to Him and to my fellows. I didn't really understand all that words at that time, but it felt good. It seemed good. So she said, all you need to do is trust God, clean house, which meant work the steps, and help others, and He's going to put me where He wants me. And there was a law that said a person like me cannot work with vulnerable populations. I have no regard for authority. I physically assault people. I'm a violent offender. She said, don't worry about that. And I ended up working in a male prison.
Wow.
A very vulnerable population on one hand.
Right.
But on the other hand, a group that I could run with, I could relate to, because I do relate. And so that's what I ended up doing. I worked actually 17 years with the state, but the first 7 was in a male facility, teaching them how to be pro-social and using, letting go of the drug and criminal lifestyle.
Changing all that thinking.
Yes, and practicing it on the floor and in the moment, and modeling it for them. Yeah.
That's super cool. That's really fantastic. So as you have, stayed in recovery for all of these years and seen, you personally living through the crack epidemic and being, in relatively, into long-term recovery, but seeing the opiate epidemic come about, over the past, 2 decades at this point, how have you seen the system change to be able to better help people? And what are the areas that you see that the system's doing a bit better, and where do we still have areas that we really need to do, that we need to address and do a bit better?
So I did tell you I worked for state government, right? Yes. So when I originally started, I started under alcohol and drug addiction services. And then it merged into mental health services. So I think what we're doing well is talking about it out loud, busting the stigma, allowing people to pick up tools, making the tools available for people to pick up, to learn, grow, and develop. My parents didn't know how to help me. I taught them how to help me. So I think what we're doing well is providing tools of education. I think there's still barriers. One is that we're focusing on one thing. If we help people with opioid addiction, then what? Can they pay their child support now? Can we go talk to child support for them? Can they have an Ohio driver's license now? How can we help them get that so that they can get gainful employment, so that they can be responsible, and so that they can be tax-paying citizens? So we're not gonna, because we know that this is chronic. This is not acute, this is chronic. And so it's gonna be ongoing. So what I'm grateful for is that in my life, I did go to treatment, and I was told on the outside of the treatment center from the recovery community, treatment is discovery. When you come with us, then it's recovery.
So this has been spectacular. If we could end with you sharing some words of wisdom that speak to you when you're having a rough day, when there's a bit of a struggle, something that's tried and true for you.
If somebody ever sees this, I just want them to be reminded that I done some horrible things in my past to my family because I was not a great booster. I wasn't a drug dealer. I wasn't any of that. I would go in my home and rummage through stuff and run out the door with it, or trickery or something like that. And today I seek to stay connected to the sunlight of the spirit, and I most often do that by allowing my vulnerable self to be allowed to experience what's going on, to feel in the moment, to be present in the moment, to love in the moment, and that keeps me free. And putting spiritual stuff, healing stuff in this hole. I ended up with a hole, even after sobriety. I couldn't recognize the hole till after recovery. The hole was still there because I was still had to work a bunch of hours, had to have a man, had to get shoes, had to do this, had to do that. And now I don't have to do any of those things because of what I put in here, spiritual stuff. So find it for yourself, and hang on to it and share it with somebody else. It'll grow. Thank you.
Thank you so much.